You know, we're constantly told that cloud ERP is the only future. But what if for the most complex, absolutely mission-critical supply chains on the planet, that proven, battle-tested workhorse is still the undisputed king? Today, we're going to challenge that common wisdom and talk about Oracle eBusiness Suite. In this quote from our source material at Bay Forward, it just cuts right through all the noise. See, this isn't about ignoring the future. It's about understanding the present reality for thousands of global operations that, well, simply cannot fail. So let's dive into this exact conflict. The constant hype we hear about the cloud versus what's actually happening on the ground. You know, the operational reality for businesses where complexity is just a daily fact of life. This isn't really a legacy versus modern debate. It's about what truly works when you're under extreme pressure. This slide really just crystallizes the whole debate perfectly. The hype tells you that cloud is inevitable and these so-called legacy systems are just holding you back. But the reality? For these incredibly complex environments, EBS isn't just hanging on. It's an unbreakable backbone. It delivers critical functionality that a lot of newer cloud systems are frankly still struggling to replicate. Okay, but what do we actually mean by complex? It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, right? So let's get really specific and break down what real, high-stakes complexity actually looks like in a supply chain. Because believe me, it is a world away from simple logistics. And here it is. This is the heart of the matter. Real complexity is all about those intricate layers. It's about needing absolute millimeter-level precision and control, where one tiny little error can have these massive, cascading consequences downstream. We're talking about operations where good enough just doesn't cut it. And that kind of precision is demanded by these four huge drivers. Just think about it for a second. Coordinating components across a global network of suppliers, navigating customs in dozens of countries, handling massive order spikes for a just-in-time assembly line where a 2-hour delay could shut down the entire operation. Or what about meeting the incredibly strict audit requirements of regulators like the FDA? I mean, this is the world ERPS was literally built for. So given that insane level of complexity, why does EBS keep holding its ground? Well, it really comes down to a few core capabilities. Let's call them superpowers that have been honed and perfected over decades of real-world, in-the-trenches use. The first superpower is just sheer maturity. Modules like warehouse management systems, or WMS, and advanced supply chain planning have seen it all. Seriously, every bizarre edge case, every unique industry requirement you can think of, chances are it's been encountered and solved. Companies have built their entire operational models on custom logic within these modules that newer cloud platforms often just can't handle. Then there's just the raw power. We're talking about the ability to process immense, mind-boggling volumes of data. Imagine closing a financial period with millions upon millions of transactions, or running planning for thousands of items across multiple factories all at once. EBS was architected for exactly this kind of heavy lifting, handling massive batch processes that would honestly just choke a lot of modern systems. Now, this next point is absolutely crucial. The cloud narrative often dismisses customization as technical debt. But in the EBS world, the ability to hard-code your unique, superior operational logic directly into the system, well, that's not debt. That is your competitive advantage. It's literally how you outperform the competition. And finally, EBS plays well with others. Large manufacturers have this complex maze of other systems. You've got manufacturing execution systems or MES platforms, quality tools, you name it. EBS has spent years developing these mature, super reliable integration points to connect with pretty much everything, which minimizes the risk when you have to make system changes. So the technology is solid, we get that. But what about the business case? This brings us to what I like to call the migration math problem. Because when you look at the real numbers, ripping and replacing EBS, well, it isn't always the slam dunk that vendors want you to believe it is. Yeah, the sticker shock is real. A full migration can easily run into the tens of millions of dollars. And that's not just the software cost. That's the immense cost of operational disruption, of pulling your best people off their actual jobs for a year, maybe more, just for testing and training. For a lot of CFOs, that math it doesn't add up. And this really gets to the heart of the whole strategic divide. The cloud vendor, they see your unique processes as a problem, something to be standardized away. But a strategic view, it sees those exact same processes as a competitive moat. It's the very thing that makes your business better than the rest. So why on earth would you ever abandon that? All right, let's see how all this translates into actual results. We've got three really powerful examples from the source material that show how companies are using EBS as a strategic weapon, not just some back office system. Just consider these for a moment. A major pharma company hit the pause button on its cloud migration because its custom EBS batch tracking was just too critical for compliance. A large retailer saves a whopping 15% on labor costs because of proprietary logic they built right into their EBS warehouse management system. And an automotive giant runs its entire just-in-time network on a customized EBS system because the risk of downtime is just way too high to even think about changing. See, these aren't companies stuck in the past. They're companies actively protecting their competitive edge. So, after looking at the complexity, the capabilities, and these real-world cases, what's the big takeaway here? What's the crucial point? Well, it's really about reframing how we think about this entire debate. And this is the question I want to leave you with. Maybe the conversation shouldn't be about legacy versus modern at all. Perhaps it's really about acknowledging that for certain mission-critical, high-complexity jobs, the right tool is the one that's proven, powerful, and deeply configurable. It's about fitness for purpose, not just blindly following the hype. What do you think?